you're not getting a feel for any team at the moment. And that's what I don't like about football. Bayern Munich, there's a feel about them. There's a feel about Dortmund as well. You know what the Dortmund team's going to be near enough.
There was a stage over the last few years where Bayern were spending quite a bit of money, not that they've truly stopped, but it seems like there's a bit of a shift in emphasis. I've seen Karl-Heinz Rummenigge, he reacted to the transfer of Nick Woltemade from Stuttgart to Newcastle, essentially saying that Newcastle had paid funny money to get that transfer done, and that Bayern Munich are no longer going to behave in the market that way. And in a way, they're already vindicated. I mean, he had a great quote about how we won't go along with this madness of what the English are doing. But, Bayern have spent a bit of money, but maybe they're realizing that their way to operate in the market is a bit different, and they can still thrive without trying to spend what, the English teams do.
Yeah, I think in German football generally, there is that broad feeling that they can't just copy what is happening in England, that it's a different market, it's a different climate for football. Certainly, when it comes to attendances, Germany is top. It's got a very successful formula that way. But we don't in this country have oligarchs coming in buying up clubs. It can't happen, and it's not wanted. So you do have to find that sort of middle way. I think for Bayern as well, one thing that's always very important is identity. And so they feel that they have to have this German core throughout the team. And that really is one of the reasons why they were desperate to sign Florian Wirtz during the summer, ultimately chose Liverpool. And it's interesting because had Wirtz gone to Bayern, many thought he would, then we probably wouldn't be talking about Luis Diaz as a Bayern player. So they went with somebody a lot older, somebody who's not German, but having that German core is important. From Manuel Neuer to Jonathan Tah, who Stewart mentioned, Joshua Kimmich there in the centre, Leon Goretzka, who's still part of the Bayern equation. And if Bayern ever got away from that, I think there would be many surrounding the club who would think this is wrong. This is not Bayern-like. We need to always have that. We need to have the best German players wanting to play for us. So, yeah, I mean, they are a rich club. It's interesting because here in Germany, of course, people look at Bayern and make fun of them and say, they can't really plead poverty, which they might do compared to the clubs in England. It's an interesting one.
But the other thing I was just going to say there, Derek just mentioned two players. 2 years ago, these two players, Kimmich and Goretzka, were not really favourites of Thomas Tuchel. Thomas Tuchel said that Kimmich couldn't really play in a number 6, so they were looking at other players to play in that role. Goretzka looked as though he was out the side. So I think company's done a very good job to get both those players playing at their very best and forming that midfield partnership, which was so good before Thomas Tuchel took over. So credit again to the manager, getting the best out of two players that have been exceptional players for Bayern for many, many years.
It's an interesting tug and pull because, when Karl-Heinz Rummenigge says that Newcastle are idiots for paying that and they're happy that they didn't, maybe there's a bit there of Bayern feeling like the best German players still should go to them as they always have. And yet you motioned at this, Derek, but is there a feeling across German football beyond Karl-Heinz Rummenigge and Bayern that maybe the way that the English transfer market is operating is unsustainable anyway, and that it may pose problems for them down the road, and that maybe Germany will in the long term be better off not trying to operate that way?
I think quite simply, Jack, they know that they can't operate that way. It's just not an option. So it's pointless even trying to sort of think about a scenario whereby they could. And whether or not they believe that England is heading for a fall at some point, not sure about that, because maybe they're not. Maybe that model has been successful for long enough in England.
What I would say is that I don't think the game in England it might have a fall, but there's several clubs that might have a fall because their transfer strategy is madness and it's obscene at times. If you're buying, a squad of 20 players and they're all paid very, very good money, you paid a lot of money for them, and that's it, and you've got a good squad to work, but they're buying 40 players. that are getting paid fortunes that never ever play, that they can't then sell them, and they're going on loan here, there, and everywhere. You know, the clubs are losing their identity. I watch the Premier League very rarely. I watch late on in the evenings, and I'm looking at teams, and I don't know who the players are sometimes. I watched Wolves the other day, and I only recognised 2 of their players by their name. I mean, because so many players are coming in, and they've got such big squads, and they're rotating their squads. You're not getting a feel for any team at the moment, and that's what I don't like about football. Bayern Munich, there's a feel about them. There's a feel about Dortmund as well. You know what the Dortmund team's going to be near enough. You know what most of the German teams are going to be near enough from week to week. And that's how it should be, in my view.